So, as you start working on your communication skills and you clarify things with the people around you, you're going to have more clarity in your life. What would that be like? What would it be like if you could see clearly, uh, or we can use all the senses and say hear clearly, sense, feel clearly? What if your feelings right now are more muddled than you realize, just as your communication might be more muddled? I feel that my communication is often muddled, and as I clean it up, I'm just seeing more clearly who's really on my team, who is not on my team, and how much effort am I putting into communicating with people who are not putting effort into their communication. So we can just start to desire clarity in our lives and see more clearly where we are going, what we want, who we want to deal with, and who it takes a lot of effort to deal with. What will that be like for you? One of the things we can do also is to honor our emotions. One of the things this means is that we're going to feel our emotions. The second thing is that we're going to be slower, perhaps, to express our emotions. Expressing our emotions is not going to be necessarily required. We're going to find out that injecting our emotion into a situation is not always useful. Of course, sometimes it is, and we have to discern the difference between when it's useful and when it isn't. Hi, I'm Fran Gallagher, and I'm your guide to relationships, meditation, and intuition. As we develop ourselves spiritually with meditation and we develop our intuition, that other aspect of our thinking that we may not have practice with, as we develop those aspects of ourselves, we're going to need to clear up our relationships. So, all the emotions are meant to arise, peak, and then dissipate and leave behind energy either for peace and acceptance or for taking action. The emotion of anger, when it is allowed to arise, peak, and dissipate, leaves behind, in some cases, clarity. It burns away distraction. It burns away extraneous details that have nothing to do with the situation. And this clarity is going to be at times mind blowing. It is going to reveal to you who you are, what you're really about, what you're not about, and who you belong with and who you don't belong with. This clarity is really precious. And we can also work backward from the clarity. As we get more clarity in our lives, we can say, wow, I'm processing my anger more efficiently and effectively for my own good. If we feel our anger and we don't necessarily spray our anger or angerify our world, we are going to have clearer lives, clearer communication, cleaner communication. So sometimes if someone is stepping on your foot, you may have to express your anger quicker than might be ideal. But other times, it's useful to be strategic about what we're going to say if we're going to say something. I remember the situations where I waited too long to express my anger. Other situations where I was too quick to anger. It takes a lot of practice to become more strategic, even perhaps surgical in our application of expressing our anger. This is just talking about anger. There are, of course, many, many other emotions. As you develop your sensitivity, you're going to also be developing your sensibility. So, you know the term clairvoyant? It actually means clear seeing. And that's the clarity that comes from allowing the anger to arise, peak, and dissipate. We're going to develop our ability to see in ways that involve our inner eyes as well as our outer eyes. We're going to be able to see our way clear, as we sometimes say, to be able to take certain actions, to do what needs to be done. This ability to have clarity in our lives is going to revolutionize your life and mine. And it already has revolutionized my life. I realized that I had unbalanced relationships and I myself was unbalanced. So getting myself on track and in greater alignment has been a huge advancement for me. And I'm going to suggest that it will be a huge advancement for you. So, what can you do right now? Can you notice if you have any anger? Is there any resentment below the surface? What can you do to feel it and not necessarily express it? What can you do to respect it? To realize that something is going on for you. You know, if you've ever had a pet like a dog or a cat and they're in pain and you try to help them, you might not be surprised if they try to bite you or hurt you in some way because they're in pain. They're perhaps also angry or afraid. We can treat ourselves that way and notice that, you know, we might be quick to anger, quick to bite, quick to say something that we might regret. So we learn to be compassionate toward ourselves. We learn to have room for our anger and our feelings. And we set up our lives in order to have room for them. So thank you for joining me. And I hope this journey into clarity brings more clarity to your life and your situations, to your expressions, your activities, to your relationships. I am your guide to relationships, meditation, and intuition. So be safe in all these spaces.